Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Football Manager Therapy. I'm your host, Rich Owens, and for the benefit of the audio listeners, I'm joined this week once again by the complete FM team. Kev's back. Everybody's so happy. We're so happy to see him. Kev's here. Alice is here. Jeb's here. Of course, I'm here. You can hear me. It'd be weird if I wasn't. I'm going to start by speaking to somebody that I've missed terribly last week. Kev, it's a delight to have you back. How are you, mate?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Thank you for giving me the week off. I appreciate it. I know that there's, consequences and stuff for that later on in my contract, but I do appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with my family. So thank you. Yeah, it's good to be back. I listened to the pod last week and you were all amazing.
Oh, you. See, he's just the nicest man in the universe. But no, we're delighted to have you back this week, mate. Genuinely delighted. And yeah, everyone gets a week off to spend time with family sometimes. I just hope you enjoyed it because it's the last time you're going to see them for a considerable amount of time. So
that's fair.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed those hugs. That's always fun, isn't it? Alice, how are we, friendo?
I'm very good. I like how you just brought up that Kev is the nicest man in the universe because, like, Kev is obviously well known as being the nicest individual in the Football Manager community, and in contrast, I've started growing a bit of a reputation, a bit of infamy as that streamer that swears a lot. I found that out last week that in other streams, apparently I'm just referred to as the streamer that swears a lot. So that's fantastic.
Hey, of all the reputations that people could be cultivating within the community, language isn't necessarily the worst one.
That's true.
Exactly. The way that I see it, mate, the way that I see it is that if a word is good enough for a sailor, it's good enough for me. So everything's fine. Everything's fine. If you enjoy slightly colourful language, and if anything, mate, it's because you care. That's the important thing, isn't it? Yeah.
I do care.
Exactly. If you didn't care, then it would be tame and nobody would be bothered. But mate, thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to have you back as always. And finally, a man who, spoiler alert, friends of the podcast, spoiler alert, audience, who may become slightly smugger as the podcast continues. Look at that beautiful eyebrow. It's Jebbaroo. How's it going, pal?
All right, I'm just really annoyed I've redone my stream deck because I did actually have a bleep on there, so I was going to use a... well, you're wrong, Alice, with some expletives in the middle, but never mind. Yeah, I'm all right. It's daylight outside. We're recording with daylight outside. This is a rare thing. It's very nice. But yeah, I've had a good week. I've had a very good week. Obviously, Thursday we'll get into later.
Or will we? Just based on that, I think we might have to skip it. I mean, it's hard to say how it's done. Just go back and watch the VODs and you'll figure out that stuff. No, that's going to be fine. Yeah, it's been a good week to be Jebbaroo this week. It's been a very, very good week to be Jeb this week. But as you say, we will dive into more of that a little bit later in the podcast. Now, traditionally, we would open each record with a bit of a recap of how we've all been doing in terms of our stream saves, our saves on Twitch. But to be honest with you, I mean, I don't know if Jeb and Alice are any different. I have literally no updates. Mexico is still really, really hard and I'm struggling. So there you go. I've really, really accurately summarized my last week. Obviously, we had no Kev last week, and we are all well aware because we've been having chats with Kev over the course of the last couple of weeks about how he's getting on with his homeward bound journey. And my goodness, there have been developments. Kev, tell us all about it, pal.
Do I have to? I mean, is it going to be a very empty podcast if I don't?
Oh, go on, because there's, I mean, it's the most beautiful redemption story I think ever. So
it's the most ludicrous one. I don't know about anything else. Anyway, okay, so I am doing my Homeward Bound series. I'm trying to work my way back from the Ukraine to England. The way you do it, you win the league in the country you're in. It means you get to move over a border into the next country and eventually get back to England, win the Premier League. If you don't win a league in 3 seasons, you have to wait until you do, and then you can't move forward. You have to move sideways. So that's the basics of the series. I started with Zorya Luhansk in Ukraine. I thought there's no point in me going Shakhtar Donetsk, Dynamo, Dnipro, those kind of 3 big clubs that have kind of dominated the league over the last few years. So I went just below that, Zorio Luhansk gave me an opportunity to win a few things, given the right transfers and sort them out, etc. in the 3 seasons, I thought. So that was my plan. So I went in, we did a little bit of business, worked a bit of magic, bought a couple of players in, set my structure up, thought, here we go, we're on to a winner, having been sacked in the beta, of course, with Valencia. So after the first half of the season, where I was predicted a 4th or 5th place finish, I was sitting in 12th position. And part of the reason for that is that I had a number of players that weren't available to me through injury. I had a long injury list for half of it. And I was also playing catch up for the first half of the season because I was in the qualifying for the Conference League. And so I was always 3 or 4 games behind everybody else in the league. And it knocked the morale of the team because we're always trying to catch up. So halfway through the season, we get to World Cup time, the thing that we don't talk about, and the winter break. And we've got a 3-month winter break, and I'm in 12th position. It's been a struggle. I've gone out of the Europa Conference League as well. And then we come back into the new year, having just changed a few little bits and pieces, changed a little bit of the tactical setup, ready and raring to go, thinking I can find a way to get this group of players working well and moving forward again. And then in the first 3 games back, we played Dynamo Kiev and Shakhtar Donetsk, and it was a problem, let's just say. And after the Shakhtar Donetsk game, I think we lost it like 3 or 4-1, something like that. But they're sitting top of the league, dominating everything. And my board called me into the boardroom to talk to me. Now, I had a bit of a reputation in FM22 for somebody who could sweet talk the board because I had so much dirt on them all the time that they wouldn't dare sack me. And I seem to have lost my dossier somewhere because the board at Zorio Luhansk were not playing ball. They gave me a couple of ultimatums and gave me a couple of options. Now, I probably should have just said, give me a month and it will look a little bit better, because the actual upcoming fixture list wasn't too bad, but I kind of didn't. I chose the wrong one and it was a little bit beggy. And they said, don't be beggy. We don't like it. I think it's time for you to leave. And they sacked me. Having played Dynamo and Shakhtar in the last 3 games, got a draw against Dynamo and lost to Shakhtar, it must be said. I thought it was a little bit harsh in terms of the point where they did it and the fact that we had got a run of games coming up, but they just weren't taking anything at all. They gave me 1 chance in the boardroom. It wasn't the right response and they kicked me out. So now I'm sitting in Ukraine without a job, and I've got 2.5 seasons left in which to win the league. A couple of jobs came up and I was going to apply for one. I think it's called Mene. I think it's spelt like Minaj, as in Nicki Minaj, I believe, but it's pronounced Mene. And that came up, but I noticed just as I was going to get an interview with them that they were actually expected to be bottom of the league and were about 3 places up above that. And I thought, they're not really the club that I can win the Ukrainian league with, if I'm honest. So I'm going to wait until the end of the season and see what jobs come up. Maybe I can get a mid-table side and just push them forward. So I did. I waited a couple of months. So this was in about March time. By June, a couple of managers had moved. And then something really weird happened. So I've got 6 months as a manager in which I got sacked. That's the only experience I have, other than the fact that I set myself up manager-wise to match up to the Ukrainian league. So I haven't got no experience, but I haven't got lots of it and lots of badges either. There's still room for improvement. And then the Dynamo Kiev manager left. And I couldn't actually tell you why he left. I didn't really investigate it, but I thought, well, if I'm going to apply for a job, it might as well be that one. I'll go for a job interview process. It'll be good content on the stream, and then we'll move forward and find another job when they say, I don't think so, thank you very much. So we went for the job interview, next stream, first off. They gave me the job, and I don't really know why. I don't know what it was that I said in the interview or what I've done in my managerial career so far for them to think, he's the one, he's going to do great. But they gave me the job. And so somehow one of the teams that I didn't want to start the series with, because it kind of felt a little bit kind of forced, I've ended up anyway. So we're now It's just so weird. We're now at the same point where I got sacked last time in that midwinter break. We're now in the midwinter break of season number 2 with Dynamo Kiev. Now, Dynamo Kiev has a little bit of money to spend because they sold Zabanye just before I arrived at the club, which was unfortunate. I'd have liked him, but we had like 30 million. And so I bought Yaremchuk back into the club and all sorts of other bits and pieces, and we set ourselves up for the season. It's gone all right. It's gone better than all right. Halfway through the season at the midwinter break, we've done appallingly awfully in the Champions League group stage that we managed to get to, because there were 3 teams in there. Who were they now? Oh, yes, that's right. PSG and Barcelona, for goodness sake. What's all that about? And Leverkusen joined them and just beat up on me, basically. And I got about 3 points from all the games. So we're out of the Champions League group stage, but we're sitting top of the Ukrainian table halfway through the season by about a point, having finally, again, caught up on the games that we needed to catch up on to actually be equal on games played with Shakhtar Donetsk. So we are legitimately sitting on top of the table. I'm now this weekend, as we speak, going through the winter break, and we'll come back next stream on Monday for us, for where we are recording this, and see what happens. But it's been a bit of a roller coaster. I really, really genuinely don't understand what happened to get me the job that I've now got, but I'm blooming going to take it, because I might actually get out of Ukraine in the best way possible and then move forward into the save. So there you go. 10 minutes of complete randomness for you.
Spectacular. Absolutely spectacular. I think if everybody at this point just pauses the podcast, goes to your, music streaming service of choice and just plays Redemption Song, because that is spectacular. Like, when the first time you told us about that, it is the literal definition of just falling upwards. Quite incredible.
You're not wrong.
Quite incredible. I'm almost jealous, because as I think we had the conversation last week in your absence, Kev, about how some people on this podcast are finding FM23 to be quite easy. Other people on this podcast are finding it to be slightly more difficult. There you were with me in the difficult camp, and now suddenly a good job has come your way, and you've had a stroke of luck. And I'm happy for you, but also miserable, because now it's 3-on-1 in terms of who's good at this game and who isn't.
Can I just suggest one thing? And my one thing is my Champions League group stage would suggest it's still a pain in the bum to play at times. And also, we haven't got to the network game yet. I might still be in your camp.
Exactly. Well, there you go. That's that matters. That matters somehow. I mean, no spoilers. Kev's doing really, really well.
Can I just also give a shout out? The one thing I never expected to be mentioned on this stream, this podcast ever, was Nicki Minaj. That came out of nowhere.
Me, I mean, me and Nicki, we're
exactly. Yeah, I think it should be a regular thing. Kev just mentioning random pop stars from
exactly
modern pop stars that we just don't expect.
I think as a section, Kev's unexpected pop culture references is going to go over really, really, really well.
Exactly.
Well, I had to do my research just because I was taking over the club, and I thought that it must be connected somehow. So it is what it is.
Fantastic. I'm 100% up for it. 100% up for it. I can't wait for, we'll be sat here in a couple of months' time talking about something, and there'll be a break in the conversation, and Kev will just say Stormzy, and then we can move on with our life. I'm very, very excited about it. There was one other very, very brief update. I think it's going to squeeze its way into this section, but mostly because somebody put a screenshot up in a Discord. Jeb, you've had one of your players had quite a spectacular, by the looks of things, 6 minutes of football, which I'd really like you to tell us about very, very briefly.
Yeah, so it was 2-2 going into the 90th minute. I brought on Vigani, who I finally signed to a new contract for Pescara, and he scored a goal in the 90+1 minute, a goal in the 90+2 minute, and then scored a goal in the 90+7 minute. So I'd argue that's a perfect hat-trick rather than the old left foot, right foot and header. I mean, free and added on time, just perfect for me. And I think somebody else got one, so it's 6-2 win. So, I mean... That's why
Love
this
that.
game's really, really great, isn't it? Really, really great.
That's why this game is just so easy. I'll just bring on a new striker with 10 minutes to go and he'll just score a hat trick. That's how it works, right? That's exactly how it works. I'm just making notes. Right? Bring on strikers in injury time. Okay, cracking. Okay, I'm making a note for a friend based on that one. Definitely not for me. Well, there we are. So it's always lovely to have a little catch up with how we're all doing, kind of, with our stream saves. But if you don't know, get to know. Thursday evenings, the four of us we like to get together. We like to get together, and we like to play our FMT network save, which is. Oh, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it now. We've only streamed it twice. It's probably one of my favorite ever saves. It's wonderful, and I think it's more to do with the company than anything else. But we all hang out together on a Thursday evening, and we play our FMT network save. If you don't know, I am managing Leicester. Kev is managing Crystal Palace. No, he's not. Kev is managing Brighton. Alice is managing Crystal Palace. And I should remember that because it rhymes. Alice at Palace. And Jeb definitely wanted the Wolves job. So the game gave it to him. We streamed our second evening of the save this week. And I think safe to say, considering we are only 4 competitive games of football in, it's kicking off. Alice, we'll come to you first. We've not heard much from you so far. How's life at Crystal Palace treating you, Alice?
It's not going good, bruv. I'll be honest. Like, I remember, I think it was two Football Manager Therapy podcasts ago. I was talking about how the game was probably too easy, and that my job at Slantuit Major, it was just too easy for me, and I was just rinsing the entire league. However, Crystal Palace is a very different ball game to Slantuit Major in the Welsh leagues, and we are not doing well. I think I had 3 easy games to start: Fulham, Southampton, and Bournemouth. I've lost all 3. Luckily, I managed to beat a League 2. I think it was Gillingham in the Mickey Mouse Cup. Managed to beat them 3-2 or something like that with a second 11. But currently, the league isn't going so far. And you know what? I'm still standing by my decision to sign Morten Gams Pedersen and build the team around Morten Gams Pedersen. It's still the correct decision to do. It's just not the rest of the squad is the issue. It's not Morten Gams Pedersen the issue. It's the rest of the squad. They aren't gelling together right now. And that's a bit of an issue. And I do not see me being in the job by January if things don't start improving and fast as well.
Yeah, some would describe your decision to build an entire Premier League squad around Morten Gams Pedersen as an interesting footballing decision. I got really excited this week. I'm genuinely excited when I found out that I've got Kolo Touré in my backroom staff. I think there is maybe 18 months difference in age between my defensive coach Kolo Touré and your starting attacking midfielder Morten Gams Pedersen.
The wrong way.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's an interesting choice. You also, I think, at the start of this week's straight, you said goodbye to arguably the best player in your squad by some considerable distance, didn't you?
Look. Zaha wanted to leave. He wanted to leave, and I'm not the kind of manager that will keep a player around if they're unhappy. I'll try and make them happy. I'll try and, sweet talk my way into giving them what they want. Sometimes they just don't believe me, or even though I'm telling them the truth, I don't always tell them the truth. But even though I was telling Wilfred Zaha the truth this time, he didn't believe me. He didn't have the confidence in myself. He didn't have the confidence in Crystal Palace. And so decided that he wanted to leave, and a bid come in for him from PSG, and I rejected it because I was like, the bid wasn't good enough. So I was like, oh, let's keep him for another year. That's fine. His contract's out at the end of the year. Like the bid wasn't good enough for that. But then we ended up getting 30 million for him. And for somebody that wasn't going to sign a new contract, we were going to lose him on a free at the end of the year. 30 million was about as much as we were going to get for him. And as it stands, he wouldn't have featured much in the squad anyway, because I've gone to a 5-2-3. Because after 2 games of a 4-3-3, I decided it wasn't working. So buckled under my pressure, and the pressure of my own self, and went with the 5-2-3.
Yeah, that was fun. Obviously, if you've listened to last week's podcast, you'll know that Alice and Jeb debated against each other in the battle of how many defenders is the right amount of defenders. Alice, with her impassioned, like Mel Gibson in Braveheart-esque, praise of a 5-back formation, starts the network game playing 4 at the back. So some beautiful irony there. No, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. Basically, because obviously we've got transfer. At the time of recording, the next update of the network save, we'll be doing our first proper transfer deadline day. How much of the Will Sahar money have you got left, Alice?
After signing a bunch of wingers that I realized I don't no longer need because I'm playing a 5-2-3, I've got 10 million left to spend. So that 10 million is probably going to be spent on a centre back because now we're playing 5 at the back. We kind of need some extra support at the back. But like at the end of the day, like my transfer decisions, this goes back to the debate last week with the 5 at the back, versus the 4 at the back. Football Manager for me is all about that passion. 5 at the back that's why I play 5 at the back usually. And bringing in Morten Gams Pedersen, Salim Wilfred Sahar, that's all part of the plan. And eventually it will come to fruition. I have not yet been sacked on Football Manager 23. I have some confidence that my plan will work. Not 100% confidence, but it's just a matter of time and we'll see how it goes. I'm not going to meta a network game.
Exactly. And I think Jeb and Kev probably feel the same as me. My highlight is just the really, really kind words we get now every 20 minutes, because there has been a 5-minute cooldown added to the original 15-minute timer where Alice has to say really, really kind things to us.
It won't be 20 minutes next stream, will it?
No.
As
And
somebody,
some of the nasty words that came out in between those 20 minutes, I think.
as somebody
The mask is slipping. Yeah.
as somebody that's genuinely quite a mean person, to the people I like at the end of the day. I'm not mean to people I don't know, or I'm not mean to people I actually don't like. I'm only mean to people I like. And so as somebody that's mean to people I like for the most part, to then actually say nice things every 15, 20 minutes, not only is it exhausting, but I don't know what to say. I'm running out of things. I'm running out of nice things to tell you, nerds. I'll be honest.
It's understandable. It's understandable. It's not a particularly deep well, that one. But you know what? I think if anything, and again, this did come up. This came up on Thursday. Alice, you might have been just having a bit of a rant in your chat at the time. Both Jeb and Kev and I, the three of us noticed. Obviously, your star boy Will Sahar, he has moved to PSG in the network save. We've noticed that he has not played a single minute of football for PSG since he's moved. I think there is potential, maybe, for him to get loan listed in January. And I can think of 3 Premier League teams that would probably be very, very interested in potentially bringing him in on loan. And if he was to maybe come into one of those clubs and score against Crystal Palace while he's on loan, I think that would be. We're a big fan of the narrative word on this podcast. I think that would make for some very, very, very top quality narrative.
Well, how much do you plan on spending on Wilfred Sahar a week? To bring him on loan? Because it's going to be a lot when he comes up against Crystal Palace, and I tell my players to get stuck in, and he breaks his leg for 7 months. You nerds are going to be stuck with a hefty bill for that. So I wouldn't suggest you do it.
Morten Gams Pedersen's got to catch him first.
If MGP snaps Will Sahar and injures him, that's. I think at that point we would probably have to stop the save, because it's just not going to get any better than that.
And who says you'll be at Palace in January anyway? I think you already said that you'll probably be sacked by then, so you might not even get to see him.
Wow. It'll be fine. You can watch from the dugout. Watching from the dugout will be fine. Well,
it's fine. I'll find a job elsewhere, work my way up to the Premiership, and then I'll show you nerds how to play Football Manager.
Oh, you're playing the long game, I see.
The incredibly long game, and I rate it. I love that. It's a very veiled threat. It's like, I'm going to batter you in about 6 seasons' time. You just wait. It's probably right. That's the really disappointing thing. I mean, from struggling to, I mean, Kev, you've already fallen spectacularly upwards in the Ukraine. How's it going in the network save though, friend? Because as you said earlier, maybe a slightly different experience.
What I've discovered about FM23 so far is that I really love it between matches. It's a lovely experience between matches. I get to buy players in at Brighton, spend lots of money, all sorts of lovely things, not be able to look at my tactics screen because somehow my network game is broken and I can't get onto that screen. It's a lovely experience. And then my team play in FM23. And the only thing that I can say is, one, there's either a real master stroke happening here because I'm hoping that I'll get the sack at Brighton and end up at Man City or something, because that's what I do in FM23, or it's going to go exactly the same way as Valencia and Zorya Luhansk have. It feels identical to it, for me anyway. I have started the season, we've played 3 or 4 matches, and I can't get them to do a thing. They're just not working. Everything feels like it's going against me in terms of, there was an incident, I can't remember, was it in the game with you, Jeb, where the ball went over the top of one of your players that hit him on the top of his head as it went through and fell so nicely for him to just slot it in the back of the net while my defenders have basically stood there watching it happen, that it just feels like the game hates me.
I don't know what you're on about. That was just unbelievable skill from Mateus Nunes.
Yeah, okay. We'll get back to that later in the podcast. I've got some more things to say about that. But yeah, it feels, I tell you, it feels identical to me to Valencia and Zorya Luhansk. It's a bad start. And the next set of fixtures I've got are, I believe it's something like Man City, Arsenal, Newcastle, Chelsea, the next 4. I genuinely feel by September I could be asked by the board what's going on. And I don't know what to tell them, because ultimately I think I bought decent players in. We've got Marcus Leonardo up front. We've got Noah Lang as a promising left winger. Zygankov on the right-hand side. Kanna and Elena I bought into central midfield to solidify the midfield up a little bit. I think we've done all right. Yet whatever I do with them on the pitch, they just go, what's that round circular thing that everybody else is playing with? Do we do something with that? And I just don't know. So yeah, it started really well. And then I played Jebaru, and it really wasn't very good. He comfortably won the game, really. But we'll let him talk about that. So yeah, I'm having a lovely time with you lot. It's a fantastic Thursday evening, and between games, it's a lovely place to be down on the South Coast. I just wish my team would figure out how to kick a football, and we'll see what we can do next time out.
I mean, you are right, mate. You've done everything right on paper. I had a little browse of your transfer window, and you've made all the right moves. I had people in my chat on Thursday. I'm in need of strengthening in certain positions, and I think people in my chat, without knowing, were suggesting, they were like, "Oh, you should take a look at this player." I was like, "Kev's already signed him." And they're like, "Oh, what about this lad Noah Lang?" It's like, "Kev's already signed him." "Oh, what about Marcus Leonardo?" "Kev's already signed him." It was just everybody, just literally. It was, it's like that South Park episode. It's like Simpsons did it already. It's like Kev's already beaten me to the punch every single time. So yeah, on paper, it looks like you've done all the right things. But just sometimes the games don't go. You'll be fine though. You're Kev. I mean, FM has already broken the rule. With FMT, people on FMT don't get sacked. Them's the rules. That's how it works this year. FM23, if you are on the FMT podcast, you are unsackable. So the fact they've already done that to you once is
Twice.
Twice. Game's broken. I don't know if it's SI. I don't know if it's too late to be reporting bugs at this stage, but I think this is something that needs addressing. Kev can't get sacked, and when he goes to the board and begs, the board are right to listen. They don't. You don't double down on that. You say yes to Kev.
So yeah, by stream number 5, I'll be at Man City and the world will be right. So it'll be fine. It's what happens on FM23. I've seen it happen. So it'll be absolutely fine. But just for now, it's painful, but very lovely to spend the evening with you lot.
It's lovely to have you in, regardless of how the results going, Kev. Regardless, because this is the nice thing, you know, when if it's not going right for Alice, Alice goes quieter between games when the results aren't going correct because she mutes up, and I'm assuming she's in her stream and there is some language. Then she comes, and then she comes back, and we either get the remnants of that or the 20-minute timer kicks over, and you just get really, really angrily complimented. Whereas Kev is just like, regardless, is just like serene and everything's fine. Everything is fine in Kev's world. I mean, speaking of people who everything might be fine for. How's life, you know, for a man who didn't want to manage in Wolverhampton? How's life in Wolverhampton, Jeb?
Right, before you start this, I have to leave the room because I can't deal with the smugness that we're about to hear. I got
Here it
it.
is. Here it is.
Don't know what you're on about. Unfortunately, I've got a coughing fit at the moment, so give me a second. I'm that smug, I'm now choking on it. Yes, we are top of the league. We are top of the league. And my two signings have been Aaron Cresswell and Liam Cooper. So that's how that one's worked out, you know. We've had a good start, to be fair. We drew our first game and then we won our second two. Try this.
So
He is
well,
really choking on his
he
success.
really is. I think while Jeb is coughing, I think for the benefit of the audio listeners, at the start of this section, Jeb legitimately picked up and put on a pair of sunglasses. So, if anything, this is a delicious slice of karma.
It really is.
I thought the coughing fit was just so he could get out the way of his lighting, so you could see written on his board to his left-hand side is top of the league. But apparently it wasn't. He was just genuinely choking.
Yeah, there you go. I think we're good now. So we made those signings. We drew our first game and Raul Jimenez got 2, and then we played West Ham and beat them 3-0, and he got a hat-trick. So I've only actually had 2 scorers this season, Raul Jimenez and Mateus Nunes, who got a hat-trick against Kev. It seems to be gelling all right. Like I said, we're top of the league. We've only played 3 games. The board hate me anyway because I've signed 2 English players instead of signing any Portuguese players. So on balance, we'll see where it goes. The next game is Liverpool, but Liverpool, I think, just lost to Fulham in the 13th, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's like I said, there was a bit of fortune on the goal against Kev, but I think the amount of chances we had, we should have won that game. I think that's how that one worked. And yeah, I'm kind of surprised by some of the players that are playing well, but some of them, it's just changing that system from what I had in the beta, which I had such a nightmare with. Like Mateus Nunes now as a shadow striker rather than as a defensive midfielder is working quite nicely. Ruben Neves still isn't going anywhere. My transfer deadline day is going to be very quiet because I have no money. I've even cashed in one of the clauses on Diego Jota to try and get some more money into my wage budget, but I've still got nothing. So I think unless I can sell the aforementioned Hwang Chan many times, if anybody wants a right winger, left winger, or striker, he's really good. He's really good. He's got a hat trick in the under 18s. He's really good. Go on, do it, please. Somebody sign him. But yeah, unless you can get rid of some players, my transfer deadline day could be very quiet. I have a lot of players scouted, ready to go to push a button on, but I need money to do it, unfortunately. What about you, Rich?
Well, I'm having a really nice time at Leicester City. Thank you for asking, Jeb. Yeah, it's going well. It's going really well. I've set up a system that I've not used on FM for at least 3 years. I think I'm playing a 4-3-3. I've not played a 4-3-3 for a very long time, and it seems to be working really nicely. Kev, I know you mentioned you've got Newcastle coming up. If I can give you a tip on how to beat Newcastle, because I did 4-1 on the opening day of the season. You need Harvey Barnes. So just going to put that out there. If you have Harvey Barnes in your squad, you'll beat Newcastle because Harvey Barnes was really good against Newcastle. Unfortunately, he is my player, so that might not help you tremendously. But
I do still have some money left.
Can I offer you a Kalichi Iheanacho, who your board are constantly recommending you sign? They call him they do call him the Nigerian Harvey Barnes, so that could work in your favour. He's definitely got that in his locker. Life at Leicester is actually really fun. I've sold a lot of the deadwood. I've managed to get a lot of the deadwood out of the club. So players like your Iosi Perez's and your Yannick Vestergaards are gone. So there's a little bit of money left to play with as well. I've signed, I completely forgot between the first and second streams that I might have done a deal for a central midfielder from Odds Ball Club. Obviously, an affiliation. There's a tenuous link between FMT and Odds Ball Club through former host of the podcast, Tony Jameson. They are his official Norwegian team in real life. They've actually got a really, really great pool of young players. They've got a really, really, really good central midfielder, Jornsson, I think the name is, who at the start of the game, all of the big European clubs are interested in, like PSG are keen, AC Milan are keen, Inter Milan are keen. So I managed to bring him in for £1 million up front and then about £3 million on the never never. So he's gone back on loan. The board have really crossed it. Like, you've signed a player who hasn't got a work permit. I'm like, yeah, but he's gone back out on loan to get the work permit. So everything's going to be fine. He is going to be playing games in a league that isn't actually loaded up in our database. So we'll probably get a work permit. That's going to be okay. Battered Newcastle, as I say, then got instantly turned over by Spurs in the next game. So a 4-1 win and then a 4-1 loss. So if anything, the goal difference has balanced itself out. Everything is fine. Kulusevski is a cheat code. He was just far, far, far too good. Couldn't stop him. Dejan Kulusevski, you big ginger Swedish hunk. He tore me apart. And then a tactical masterclass against Manchester United. Some might say a Rich DF Tactics masterclass. Beat them 2-1 at home. Took them apart. They had about 3 shots on target the entire game. Just played them off the park. And then I'm through in the. Alice, you referred to it as the Mickey Mouse Cup. I will have you know that the League Cup is the most reputable competition in world football until I get knocked out of it. So, which I think I'm about to do, because while everybody else had, I think, the highest ranked in terms of the English football pyramid, I think, did the 3 of you all play teams that were League 2 clubs, maybe League 1 clubs in round 1?
Yeah,
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think I'm only allowed to play Merseyside clubs because I beat Everton on penalties in the second round, and now I've got Liverpool in the third. So after that game, it's a joke of a competition, and why would we bother trying to win it? Exactly. Then I get Tranmere. Exactly. A reward. That's it. There you go. A trip to Tranmere is a reward. There's a new sentence. A sentence that I don't think anybody has ever said before. So there you go. We all got to enjoy that one together. It's the last time anybody will say it as well.
Rich, I think you'll find, Rich, that the most prestigious cup competition in the world is the pre-season friendly cup that I won, my assistant won for me before the games even officially started. I think that's the most prestigious one in the world, surely.
Oh, clearly, yes. And until
I'm going with the Scottish Professional Football League trophy, which I completely forgot existed until my Llantwit side in my single player save just randomly ended up in this Scottish trophy, in this Scottish competition. I'm just like, how on earth? Oh yeah, they invite a couple of Welsh and Irish teams.
I was that must have been, was it like a weird postcode lottery kind of thing? Like you just, one day you just, you're there at home, you get a knock on the door, and it's X Factor boot camp contestant Gaithan Chima turning up with a giant check. It's like, you're going to play in a competition in Scotland. You're like, oh, but I don't want to, Gaithan Chima. I don't want to at all, because he hosts the postcode lottery now. I know this because he's from Worcester, where I'm from, and occasionally he pops up and people laugh at him for it.
He's not Jason Donovan, though. Sorry,
he's no Jason Donovan. He's no Jason Donovan.
This
and
is
he
very tedious. I'm just,
and he never will be. But no, it's what you're here for. You knew when you pressed play, you knew what you were doing, audience. You knew exactly what you were going to get. So yeah, but a Welsh team playing in a Scottish Cup is an interesting one. But again, arguably not as prestigious as the League Cup until I bow out of it. So I've got, that's been great fun. That's been great fun so far. I've got £15 million of actual money left. I have realised that I was so focused on bringing in a centre back because I was desperate for a centre back, and Jack Butland, obviously. I've now realised that playing a 4-3-3, I have 2.5 players that can actually play in wide positions in my entire squad. I've got Harvey Barnes, I've got Maddison, and I've also got Mark Albrighton, who is the half a player, Soz Mark. Premier League winner Mark Albrighton, but still Soz. So come transfer deadline day, I am going to be putting some bids in for some wide players. They're scouted. They're pretty much ready to go. I just need to sign those, and then fingers crossed. I'm in for an interesting league campaign. Like Jeb, I was temporarily top of the league, and I definitely took a screenshot of it about 15 minutes into the first game against Newcastle, just so I could say for posterity I was up there. But yeah, I'm having a good time. I like Leicester. It's a nice squad. Like there's depth. There are players that I like. Jamie Vardy is also there, which is members of my chat aren't necessarily delighted when Jamie Vardy scores goals. Sorry, Dave Goodger. I do apologise, mate. But as long as he keeps scoring goals and winning me points, then Jamie Vardy is my favourite person in the world. So life is hell. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. I'm looking forward to potentially not having to flirt with getting sacked. I think, just keep it under the radar. Top half finish is all they want from me. And I reckon I've got the squad to do it. So I'm having a lovely time. And I also can't wait to bring in Will Sahar on loan in January. That's going to be a highlight for me too. It's going to be very, very good. But there we are. So that's, like I say, if you don't know, get to know, because that's what we do every Thursday night. 8 o'clock on all of our respective channels, which we'll be plugging at the end. So please do come hang out, come get involved. We have a lovely old time. You can make Alice say kind things to us. This is the other fun thing. I put in. I've got new channel points redemption things where I can say something very kind to one of the members of the team, or like Alice, I can say something unkind for balance. The only person that didn't have say something unkind redeemed against them was Alice, because my chat fear you. So.
And so they should. They should.
You're a terrifying human being. So, but yeah, come hang out. We have a lovely, lovely time. We did touch on this earlier. We did touch on this earlier in the conversation. Last week there was a debate. The 5-back versus 4-back, Alice versus Jeb, and another thing that Jeb has won recently with. Again, for the benefit of the audio listeners, Jebaroo has just put back on a pair of sunglasses. I think with over 60% of the votes. Jeb, how do you feel as a debate winner? How's that making you feel?
Well, I think I said it on the network save. Gareth Southgate started with a back 4 on Monday, so that kind of justified my thing there. And then Alice took inspiration from my passionate debate and started with a back 4 on the network save. So I'm glad to be right.
It is. It's completely subjective, but also, the people have spoken. Alice, what do you think? What do you think let you down? I mean, because like I say, you couldn't argue with the passion.
No, yeah, like that. You're not wrong. You can't argue with the passion. I think what let me down was that I'm pretty confident that the majority of the people that made that vote hadn't watched hadn't listened to the episode of FMT, and we're just like, oh yeah, of course, like 4 at the back is better than 5 at the back, and they didn't listen to my passionate speech yet. They hadn't listened to it. I think had some more people than so before voting for the back, I think it would have been a lot closer. Maybe you're right. Maybe I was never going to win it. I think the reality is that 4 at the back is much more of a popular formation. So it was it was an uphill battle. It was definitely an uphill battle, like you're going to have in a bit, Rich. And and so I think that's what it is. But I believe that maybe one day we can start to change people's minds. Today is not that day. Today is not that day.
Today is not that day. But the battle for hearts and minds from Alice has been lost, but the war is certainly not over. That's what we've learned here. I mean, you could also make the argument that it's just a really, really futile effort to get involved into a debate that you have absolutely no chance of winning. Speaking of, last week's went so well, we thought we'd do another one. I mean, before we move on, obviously 60% of the people have spoken in favour of Jeb and his 4 at the back argument.
61%, please.
Sorry, 61. 61.9, I think, maybe even that high. So Boyaka 61.9. Don't sue me, Ray. Not even sorry. Not even vaguely sorry. There's one person we actually haven't heard from. A man who, when he sits on some panels on things like the FM playoffs, has a certain reputation for having a certain comfortable spot on the fence. Kev, you've obviously listened to last week's episode. Where do you sit in the 4 versus 5 at the back debate?
As we'll find out in a little while when we do our next debate, at the moment, I could sit on the fence and suggest that I don't go with either the 4 or the 5 anymore because defenders are stupid. So we're going defenderless for FM23. But having said that, I would like to apologise to Alice because I feel a little bit mean at this moment because I wasn't aware that I was supposed to have listened to the debate before I cast my vote earlier this week. So I am sorry. I might have been that 1% to push it over the 60%. So I feel bad about it. But, you know, what can I say? If you're asking me, did Alice do enough to persuade me 5 at the back is the way to go? Probably not, if I'm honest, because I've never managed to get it to work. And that's about my ineptitude, not about her passion for her subject by any stretch. Because 3 central defenders just are putting 3 really stupid people into the middle of my my FM team at the moment, and I can't bring myself to do it. So I'm still kind of 4 at the back. It's what I play. It's what I do. Will I have a go with 5 at some point in FM23? Absolutely. Will it work? Probably not.
There we go. And also for full transparency, I, as the person who created the poll and then retweeted the poll, forgot to vote in the poll. So there you go. So I was like, hey, everybody, do some democracy, and then just went about my day. So there you go. So and I would have voted for one of you for sure. So there we are. But yeah, on the subject of debates, we've decided we're going to have another one. Because the last one was really, really good fun. Now, this week's suggestion has come from Alice. Alice has suggested a topic, and she's also suggested 2 people to debate. Or you know, more accurately, somebody who's going to win and a victim. Hello. My name is Rich Owens. I play Football Manager, and this week I will be playing the role of victim. Because this week's debate is Football Manager 23. Is it broken? One of us will be arguing that the game is broken. The other will be arguing the game is not. My opponent this week is none other than the world's kindest man at the United City FM, Kev. Who, are we ready? Are we ready, guys? Are we ready? We're big now.
Bum, bum,
Look at
bum.
bum, 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 bum. We're
The
massive now,
production
Kev.
values of this show have gone through the roof.
I know.
Rich.
I know.
Yeah. That's the
Impressed.
budget done for the next 6 months.
Next time we'll do it, we'll have a whooshing sound when that happens as well.
Oh, can you imagine?
Whoosh, you know, that
Yes,
type of way,
please.
but
Yeah, that'd be fun. I'll take it. I'll absolutely take that. Again, yeah, definitely before the pod started, I was clicking through all of the camera setups and just couldn't find the one we've been using despite clicking on it twice. So yeah, this is fine. The fact that I've managed to do this in and of itself is incredible. So the way this works, if you didn't catch last week's episode and are new to the debating format, Kev and I will both be putting our passionate points of view across for why the game is broken compared to why it isn't. And then we'll have a chance to briefly rebuttal each other, and then we'll put it out to you, the audience, to decide the winner. Also, Jeb and Alice will have a say at some point, hopefully by not forgetting to vote in a Twitter poll. So, as is tradition, who would like to go first? I mean, Kev, I feel like the floor is yours because I feel like you have a lot of accurate things to say. So if you want to start off, mate, you are more than welcome to. If you would like me to go first, I might.
No, I don't mind going first. Not a problem.
Oh, it's very, very sweet of you. I think, was it 3 minutes each we had last time, guys? A maximum of 3 minutes for our first point? Or was it 2?
2.
It was 2
Two.
minutes,
Two.
then an
2.
extra
There we
minute to rebuttal.
That's right. So 3 in total. Kev, I believe your time starts now.
Who needs 2 minutes? I mean, it's simple, isn't it, really? Who needs 2 minutes? Let's go through the facts here. The facts are that in this podcast alone, the words that have come out of Rich Owen's mouth were, "This game is broken." It's done. He said it early in the podcast. Any listener out there, go back about half an hour, and he said it in his own podcast about the game on the podcast. He knew he was going to have to fight for the fact that it wasn't broken. It is done. Why is it broken? It's broken for so many reasons. Too many penalties, too many injuries. The scouting setup isn't quite right yet in terms of what you can find and where you can find them. And then we talk about defenders. And anybody that's played FM23, if you are telling me you have not witnessed a defender not understand how to defend, you are absolutely talking out of somewhere you shouldn't be talking out of. Let's not go there, but it is absolutely true. They stand there gormlessly and they watch strikers walk past them, get an over-the-top ball, stroll into the penalty box and slot it past the keeper. And they basically just stand there and go, was I supposed to do something about that? What is the point of playing this game at the moment when all you get are the big teams coming to you, getting 3 penalties in a match, so they've already got a head start, and then the other 3 goals that you've conceded are because your defenders can't defend anymore? And don't even get me started on the fact that when you play the minnow sides, my strikers who have scored a few goals here and there looking pretty good can't hit anything. They can't do anything. They hit the corner flag more than they hit the goal because it's all completely against me, completely inept, completely broken. And Rich even said it himself earlier in the podcast. I rest my case.
Wow. I mean, to my knowledge, I only remember using the phrase "the game is broken" when introducing this segment. So, you know, the rest of that, I mean, nobody's going to rewind and check to see if that's something I said. Here's where I sit. On this issue. Is the game broken? No. Is the game harder than previous years? Yes. And I think that is the biggest learning curve for me this year. I think Jeb really, really nicely summarized it, I think, on last week's pod. Having a dozen different tactics this year doesn't work. You need to find a system that your team are comfortable playing in, and then there need to be subtle changes you can make to that system to adapt when you're playing against different teams and teams that set up, you know, in different ways. It's something that I part of the reason I've had such a nightmare managing in Mexico this year is because I'm just throwing shit at the wall and hoping something sticks. So it's like, this should work. It doesn't work. I'm like, right, back to the drawing board. We'll change the formation completely. This should work. Doesn't work. Don't know what I'm supposed to do. In terms of defenders making mistakes, I'm seeing a lot more of that when you're constantly changing things and you're swapping from 4 at the back to 5 at the back, you know, maybe even 3 at the back sometimes. You know, these things are going to happen if you're playing players in unfamiliar positions, if you're constantly changing things tactically. I think that is an accurate representation of what would happen tactically in real life if the manager was to change the tactics on a regular basis. You know, you watch games of even football played at the highest level, you're going to see mistakes from players. You're going to see, you know, certain things happen over the course of a game of football that might necessarily not. I don't necessarily, like I say, I don't think it's broken. I think it's harder. I think the adaptive AI management makes things trickier. Teams figure out how you play quicker, which means that, you know, it's, don't shake your head at me, Kev, please. I can't handle it. Please don't do that. I'm going to have to take you off the screen. It's really, really upsetting for me. I don't know. I think if you base the level of success that I've had at managing somewhere like Mexico, if you compare that to how I've got everything set up at a club like Leicester, where even though they have a better quality of player, I've stripped things back tactically. I've kept a similar kind of system when I'm attacking. I switch it up and I've got a similar kind of thing when I'm defending. It's not overly complicated and I'm already seeing better results. Yeah. So there we go.
All right, there, Kev. You've got a minute rebuttal to that.
Again, do I need even a minute? For goodness sake, all that you've said makes no difference when your defenders can't defend. It's broken. It's completely broken. The entire thing. The only reason people are being successful is because they happen to have good players compared to the ones that they're being played against. Man management, formation management, tactical management means diddly in FM23 at the moment because every game that you play is decided on penalties or your defenders completely missing the point of what they're there to do in every single way possible. It's a completely broken experience. Most people managing this, and we haven't even talked about draft mode, which is basically 22 headless chickens running around a pitch and not being able to get anywhere near anything, and nobody has a clue how it's supposed to work. It's a completely broken experience. Nobody in their right mind can sit here and say, as a manager in FM23, I feel in control of what's going on about me. It's impossible to do. The game is broken. Love it, but it's broken.
All right, Rich, you got a minute rebuttal to that?
I mean, I could make the compelling argument that I don't think I've ever felt in control of what's going on in Football Manager ever, or even my own life. So, I mean, that in and of itself is a moot point. Plus all I'm getting from that is that I've got a chance of winning some drafts this year. So even better, bring that on. It's you watch me fly. I tell you what, by the end of the year, I'll be top 10 FM rankings, because if everybody's a headless chicken, then that gives me as much of a chance as anybody else at winning a draft this year. So I'm all in on that. That's absolutely fine. You know what? The defensive mistakes happen. There's nothing you can do about it. I personally haven't experienced a huge amount of penalties being given to me, or, I would say I win more penalties than I concede. I think I've only conceded about maybe 4 penalties so far this year across all of my saves. So, maybe that's more of a you problem, Kev, than I think that speaks more about you as an angry tackling, you set your defenders, go in hard, go in on 2, come off both feet in the area. That'll show them. What do you mean I've conceded a penalty again? What are the chances? I'm very, very confused. There you go. Right. So there we go. Kev, I'm so sorry.
Sorry, Rich.
I'm so sorry, Kev. Wow. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Why can't Parliament be like this? Why can't they just apologise to each other at the end?
That's all you need.
Yeah. So there you go.
Stark contrast between this debate to last week's debate between me and Jab, where me and Jab were literally at each other's throats, and then you two are just after it, just nice as pie to each other. It's like, oh, come on,
Alice. At some point, you're going to have to debate Kev, and you will feel exactly the same way. You will feel exactly the same way.
I look forward to. I'm sorry, Kev, but I am absolutely so looking forward to the time where on this podcast, because I'm nice to all 3 of you on the podcast, where I can just lay into you on the debate. It's going to be glorious.
Fair. I'll take it. It's fine.
He'll take it, and he'll tell you well done afterwards. That's such a what a kind man. So there we go. So that was this week's debate section. We will be putting up a poll on Twitter as we did last week. Why bother? Why bother? Because democracy, Kev. Because democracy.
Okay. Yeah.
Because democracy.
I'd like to say that speaking in my network save on top of the league, in my main save on top of the league, I'd argue the game's not broken, so I might sit on that side of the fence with it.
What happened in the beta?
Well, that's the testing phase. That's what that is. So that's what that one is. So I see both sides of the arguments. I see where those penalties and the defender things, but I'd still sit on that backup of that tweaking of tactics rather than the drastic changing, which people used to do quite a lot. So I think it's that subtle tweaking and training it in and putting those things in. There's a lot more focus on that side of things. Like I said, I think I'm still sat in the middle a little bit. I wouldn't say it's completely perfect. Draft mode I've not experienced yet, but I've got to experience firsthand when we do path to the playoffs in a couple of weeks. So we'll see how broken it is then. But it might provide excellent entertainment for us to commentate over the top of. But like I said, I'm still sat in the middle. I think the key update for FM every single year is that Christmas update, the one that comes just in early January, where they're putting a load of the extra bits in there. So we'll see how that goes, and if it's still broken or still got issues, then we know it is a bit of a broken game.
Yeah, the fact that everybody's waiting for it knows that it's a broken game. You see,
I really liked Rich's bit in one of his speeches where it was in your debate, Rich, where it was, whenever you ever felt comfortable being a manager in real life or having control, like it's like when you play Football Manager, like, how much control do we actually have, and is that accurate to real life? Yeah, I think that is. It's like, do you feel comfortable? Do you feel in control? It's an interesting. It's a very good debate, and I don't think it's as one-sided as I think people might think.
See, look at me. I'm asking the big questions.
And think how boring your streams would be if you were just winning all the time in that type of way. And I think that comes down to the content creation side of things. It's that way.
That sounds lovely. Can I have a bit of that?
Yeah,
Yeah, Jeb. Imagine winning in all your saves. Yeah, gross.
Yeah,
Imagine
exactly.
who would do that? Exactly. Yeah. No, not me. Never me. I think that to me feels like a podcast. I don't know how you will feel about that. As I was saying, we will get the poll up on Twitter. We will get that up, and we will have that set to finish just before. We'll have that set. We'll run it for a couple of days, and then we will discuss it probably on next pod. I think, and we will take it from there. We will absolutely take it from there. This has been an absolute joy. It's been lovely having everybody back this week. Jeb mentioned earlier we're recording in daylight hours. Like, I look out the window and I can genuinely see the sun, which is a terrifying concept. It's a massive bright ball in the sky, and I fear it. I don't want to make it cross. We've recorded early in the day because this was the until we get all four of us in together, and I'm glad that we did, because having the four of us in always makes it a much more enjoyable experience. Before we go, we'll do our plugs. We'll do where people can find us if they want to find us doing things. We'll start with Mr. Top of the League, Senor Victory. Jeb, where can people find you if they would like to see you just winning everything?
And
for the
I'll
audio
put the sunglasses
listeners,
back on
they're
again.
back on.
Yeah,
They're
there you go. They're back
again,
on again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not going to have a coffee fit though this time. So it's twitch.tv / no, sorry, Jebaroo. Yeah, so you can find me at Jebaroo. We're doing our Delfino Pascara save on there, and obviously the network save as well. So find me there. Kev.
Beautiful.
Wow. Okay. So you can find me at the United City FM on both Twitter and Twitch. On Twitch, every weekday afternoon, 3 till 5 p.m., you'll find me currently at Dynamo Kiev, somehow in the Ukrainian league. I'm actually doing pretty well on there because the game's broken, and the only way you can do it is with better players in your league and everything else. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to say that. Anyway, what I would say is completely unrelated to everything else. Viewers, you're all looking very lovely. I think you're all wonderful human beings. Get voting and have a lovely week, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.
Shameless, but doubly annoying because that's exactly what I was going to do. Alice, where can the good people find you, friendo?
You can find my stream over on FM_girl on Twitch, or if you are on Twitter, it'll be FM_girl433, where you can view my comic, my Football Manager based comic, which has been going for just over a year now.
Hey, happy birthday, comic. And what an excellent comic it is as well. Unless somebody redeems 1,500 channel points on my stream, and then it's not. I myself, of course, you can find me twitch.tv/RichOwensFM, where I'm definitely not having a series of varying levels of existential crisis managing in Mexico. That's all absolutely fine. And of course, you can find me doing better with Leicester on the network game. And also, I'm at RichOwensFM on Twitter for occasional words about things. They're good though. I'd rate them.
Nice.
I rate them very, very highly. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a genuine delight to have everybody here with me this afternoon. So thank you for all joining me, and thank you, audience, for hanging out and listening and watching. We massively appreciate you. We will see you very, very soon for another episode of Football Manager Therapy. Take care. Love you. Bye-bye.